Thank you. Okay, so yes, thank you. Welcome again, and we'll get started. Okay, so my name is Folake Owojuni. I'm the program coordinator and a venture coach for the LiftOff program. I'm also a co-founder and CEO of Emergency Response Africa, which is a health tech company that makes emergency services available. So I'm very glad to be here. And with me, that will be speaking at this info session as well, is Uche Onwara. He is a venture coach with our partner, Conestoga Entrepreneurship Collective, and he's also a co-founder and CEO for Hitch, an educational technology platform for underserved students and teachers in Africa. So we're very excited to be here to tell everyone more about the LiftOff program, as well as give insights into how to submit a strong application to be accepted into the program. So here's what we're going to cover. We'll start off with an introduction to the program and talk about why we need the LiftOff program. And then we'll go into what LiftOff is, so the program structure and the offerings. Then we'll talk about who LiftOff is for, our partnerships, and then I'll turn it over to Uche to go through how to create and submit a great application. So there's a lot to cover in the next hour, but I think we'll be able to have a great discussion. One thing I would like to say, if you have any questions at any point during the presentation, feel free to put them in the chat. We're going to have a Q&A section at the end of the presentation, and we'll get a chance to listen to and respond to your questions. With that being said, I would like to just start by mentioning that I think for many of us that are on this call, we have a sense that Black entrepreneurs face challenges when trying to start or grow a business. And those challenges could be at multiple levels, but tend to go across the business ecosystem. And those challenges hinder their progress and their advancement. And so LiftOff was created by the Caribbean Canadian Association of Waterloo Region to address those challenges and power the future of Black entrepreneurship. So the Caribbean Canadian Association of Waterloo Region is a community organization that has deep roots in Waterloo Region and Wellington County. And with the support of the federal government, they were able to secure funding through the Black Entrepreneurship Ecosystem Fund to develop the perhaps first and only Black-led business accelerator and entrepreneur. So it's a program that is by Black entrepreneurs for Black entrepreneurs. So why do we need LiftOff? As I mentioned before, we know that there are challenges that Black entrepreneurs face when trying to start and grow their business. Yet, we also know that these same Black individuals make significant contributions to the community, but they're underrepresented in the entrepreneurial sphere. It's important for us to address that disconnect to make sure that Black people have access to the solutions that can make their businesses thrive and scale. And that's really what LiftOff is about. We wanted to find out a little bit more about the specific challenges that Black entrepreneurs face when trying to start and grow their businesses. So we conducted interviews with several entrepreneurs in this region, and we learned about those challenges. Number one, I think most of us would agree, is there's difficulty in accessing capital for a variety of reasons. Number two is unfair treatment, having to navigate complex systems that may not necessarily be as complex for people from other backgrounds. Number three was access to information, so knowing where to go for what information. Number four, misaligned mentorship. And this was something that came up quite frequently, making sure that you can find the individuals that understand the problem that you're trying to solve, as well as the market that you're trying to serve. Highlighted also was the lack of collaborative spirit within the Black entrepreneurship community. And finally, getting visibility for your business, both through traditional and digital media. These were some of the barriers and challenges that Black entrepreneurs face today. And the hope is that in creating a Black entrepreneurship program, we can really start to tackle these one by one. So what is the LiftOff program? Our mandate is to provide services and programming that helps Black entrepreneurs to start and grow their businesses. And these services will be available to any Black entrepreneur that has a scalable business idea. And at the end of the session, we'll talk about some of the FAQs, because having a scalable business idea does not necessarily mean that it has to be a brand new business. It could be an existing business with the desire to go to perhaps the next level. So what does the programming involve? The first step is a customizable business and market validation roadmap. And what that simply means is that anyone who comes into the LiftOff program is going to be working directly with a coach on a pathway that helps them to take their business from where it is today to the next level as defined by them. So what does success look like? That's something that you would work with your coach to define, and then you go through a roadmap that helps you to get there. There will be one-on-one coaching, like I just mentioned, and access to mentorship by subject matter experts, as well as advisory services. Business skills and leadership workshops is something that will be available to LiftOff clients as well. And something new that we're introducing is what we've called the Black entrepreneurship perspectives. And these are guided conversations within the Black community that help people to identify and also develop the tools needed to overcome the challenges that Black entrepreneurs face. So it's really about building resilience through conversations and sharing of experiences. And then finally, there will be opportunities to pitch for funding. Like we mentioned, funding is a key issue that Black entrepreneurs face. And so we want to make sure that Black entrepreneurs within the program are able to access the opportunities to pitch for funding. So the program structure itself is coach-driven, which means that entrepreneurs will be paired one-on-one with a coach. And that coach is essentially like having a built-in advisory board from day one, someone who is by your side, co-creating and building your startup or your venture with you. They walk you through your roadmap and help you to achieve the milestones that you set at the beginning of the program. There will also be group learning. So these are sessions with subject matter experts where you learn as a cohort with the rest of the LiftOff clients, and you deep dive on specific business skills and knowledge areas. The Black entrepreneurship perspective modules, which I mentioned as well, will be part of that group learning and is an opportunity or a safe space for people to really share their experiences and learn from one another. And finally, mentorship. We are building a strong bench of mentors from across various industries and fields that have specialized skill sets that can assist the entrepreneurs within the program. So these are established business professionals, these are successful entrepreneurs in their own right, and they'll be available to provide advice as well as access to the resources that entrepreneurs need. So the LiftOff program is set up as a 12-month program with 4 phases. And anyone that enters the program would start off at phase 1, and then depending on the roadmap that they create, depending on the needs of their business, they're then able to progress through the program or find their way into perhaps other programs in the wider ecosystem to get the help and support that they need. So stage 1 or phase 1 is the ideation and program validation phase. The ideation and market validation phase, which simply means that the founder is able to look at what is the problem that I'm trying to solve and how do I make sure that there's a valid business idea here. There are many times that we have a desire to solve a problem, perhaps something that we've experienced ourselves, but we don't quite know whether this has the makings of a business. And phase 1 is really about doing the research and doing the legwork that's required to validate that. And with that validation, you can then move on to phase 2, where you're launching a new business idea or perhaps a new product within an existing business and starting to build that out and test it. By the time we get into phase 3, it's really about positioning both the entrepreneur as well as the business for success. And so phase 3 will really emphasize on educational sessions for the business owner, things that help them develop the leadership skills that they need, as well as the structures and the processes that are needed to position any business for scale. And then finally, phase 4 is all about transition to community. So throughout the program, a LiftOff client would have the opportunity to network with a variety of individuals. But at that phase 4, it's really about how do we make sure that your business is well embedded in the community and is able to get the access to partnerships and customers and whatever else it needs. And so all of this will take place over a 12-month period. But the initial commitment, of course, is for that phase 1 for anyone that joins the program. And so we also want to highlight something about the program, because this is an opportunity to really dig into a business idea or to really enhance an existing business. And so it's not something that can be done in just a few hours here and there. This is a program, it is an accelerator and incubator program that is going to require time commitment. And it's important to emphasize that that time commitment could be 20 to 30 hours a week. But at a very minimum, any business owner that comes into the LiftOff program should expect to spend at least 12 hours each week working on the different activities and milestones that you would with your coach. So that's an overview of the structure of the program. Now let's talk about who the program is for. Just in case you're wondering, is it really for me? As I mentioned close to the beginning, LiftOff is a program for Black entrepreneurs by Black entrepreneurs. So if you fall within that category, then LiftOff is very likely for you. We also recognize that there's a high level of diversity amongst Black-owned businesses and their founders. And so the reason why the program is set up to be customizable and to really address the needs of that business is so that we can take into account the diverse needs of the Black business community. So you don't have to, like I said, be a brand new business. You don't necessarily have to be a tech business. It could be really anything that is geared towards a scalable business idea could fit into LiftOff. And then the final piece is we recognize that there are lower levels of entrepreneurship among Black women in the community. And so we're really committed to making sure that women are able to participate actively in the LiftOff program and be a part of it. So we came up with just this visual of who we might see as our LiftOff clients. And we thought it would be important to share because I believe that for most of us on the call, we will see at least a piece of ourselves in some of these people. Or you might find that, you see something of yourselves in several of these profiles. So we have the professional. So this is someone who, perhaps, is mid-career. They're looking for a change. They have a highly developed skill set, but they're looking to take those skills and create a business out of it. So how can LiftOff help the professional? It's really about giving them the business know-how to be able to take what is a core skill set and structure it into a proper business, but also to do it in a way that manages risk. The second profile is what we call the community pillar. So this is someone that runs perhaps a family business in the community. Perhaps they're serving quite a specific or a niche market. And what they're interested in perhaps is to grow and scale that business to be able to remove themselves from the day-to-day operations to start to think about maybe succession. How is my business going to continue beyond me? That's an area where LiftOff would also then be able to support. The third is what we call the go-getter. So, the entrepreneurial by nature, seeking to start a number of different businesses and really interested in figuring out what is the right business idea for me to focus on. So for this individual, LiftOff will really be about finding what is your strong why behind your business and what is that process, that market validation process to determine which ideas actually have a viable business behind it. The fourth profile is what we call the influencer. So that digital first style business, it's something that perhaps, started off as a hobby or a side hustle, but there's now interest in taking this to that next level. And LiftOff is really about helping that business owner to be able to structure this so that it can scale even beyond the individual. The techie is kind of our classic, a tech founder, someone who wants to set up a high growth tech business or a tech enabled business. Perhaps they're inspired by the Waterloo ecosystem, where we have a lot of that going on, and have a desire to run a business that's backed by venture capital. And so LiftOff can help to provide access to that ecosystem, as well as the aligned individuals and investors that can help to drive that. And then finally, the seventh or the sixth profile is the solver, which is a mission-driven individual who is interested in perhaps launching or growing a nonprofit or a social enterprise. They tend to be globally oriented in their viewpoint and maybe trying to solve a problem from a lived experience that they have. And our goal at LiftOff is to help these individuals find aligned support. And what that simply means is support that understands what goals they're trying to accomplish. So not just the financial goals, but also the impact goals. So if you see yourself in any of these profiles, then there's a very good chance that LiftOff is for you. I'll just, we're coming to the end of sort of the initial part of the presentation, but I just want to comment on our partners, because LiftOff would not be possible without the support of many of the members of the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Waterloo Region and Wellington County. I've already talked about the Caribbean Canadian Association of Waterloo Region, which has a long and rich history in the area and is responsible for LiftOff coming into existence with the support of the federal government. But we also want to thank our partners, the Conestoga Entrepreneurship Collective, which has been very instrumental in the creation and development of this program. We also thank Waterloo Entrepreneurship Center, Women Entrepreneurship Center, the University of Waterloo Velocity Program, and then the Waterloo Region Small Business Center. These have all been instrumental up to this point, and LiftOff clients will have the opportunity and privilege to interact with these partners throughout the program. So just a way to conclude, LiftOff was designed by the Black community for the Black community, and it's really a way to make sure that our community continues to grow and thrive. We are determined to provide services that take into account the diverse nature of and unique needs of the businesses in the Black community. And as the business grows, we want to also grow with you. So we want to provide a pathway to additional services, a pathway to additional programs in the wider ecosystem that can help to take that your organization to the next level. So I'll do a couple of quick frequently asked questions that have come up so that everyone has a chance to see those. And then I will turn it over to Uche, where he can talk about our application. So do I need to have a business idea to apply? The short answer is yes. If you have seen the application, which Uche will run through, it does ask, what problem you're looking to solve and what your proposed solution to that problem is. So anyone who wants to apply to the LiftOff program should be coming in with a sense of what they want to do in that program, because then with your coach, you would actually set up milestones and activities that you're going to be working towards. So it is important that you have a business idea. It doesn't necessarily need to be a fully fledged business, but you do need to have something that you come into the program with. Second, I have an existing business. Can I apply? The short answer is yes. And depending on the needs of your business, the program will be customized to meet those needs. We will find the mentors that help to address the specific needs of that business. Is there a cost to participate in the LiftOff program? No, there is no cost to you. Fortunately, LiftOff has been funded by the FedDev Ontario, which provided access to a pool of funding that gives us the chance to provide this free to the participants. So you will not have to pay any fees in order to participate in the LiftOff program. Is LiftOff only for Black individuals? So LiftOff is for Black identifying individuals, and the goal is, like we said at the beginning, to make sure that we are supporting the Black community. So that's something that one can expect going into the program. Will the mentors or coaches be Black? So Our goal is to make sure that, we're providing the clients with aligned support. So individuals who understand the background that they're coming from, the markets that they're looking to serve, the problems that they're trying to solve. And that means that, you will find that the mentors and coaches will be Black identifying individuals. It does not mean that we won't have individuals from other backgrounds participating and providing their expertise in the program. But in general, on the whole, you will see that many of the mentors and coaches will be Black. Will I get funding for my business if I join the program? I think this is a big question that gets asked quite a lot. And the short answer is the LiftOff program itself does not provide funding directly to the clients that are accepted into the program. But what we do is that we create opportunities for clients to pitch and to have interactions with potential funders and investors, which would then give them that initial funding that they need. So more updates on that will be provided as the program goes on. I believe that brings me to the end of this first part of the presentation. Hopefully it gives a good overview of what LiftOff is, why we exist, and why it might be a great opportunity for you as a business owner to apply. So if you are interested, the applications are now open. They will be open for the next about 2.5 weeks. So please go onto our website, liftoffbyccawr.ca, and apply by Friday, December 10th at midnight EST. If you have any questions, you can email us at info@liftoffbyccawr.ca, and someone will get back to you. And be sure to follow us on social, because that's where we're going to be announcing any new applications that open, any events that take place that are open to the public. Definitely you want to follow us there. So at this point, I'm going to pause and turn it over to Uche, who's going to then take us through how to write a great application.
Thank you very much, Falake. Your intro and the background is even giving me, I wish I could apply, let me put it that way, to LiftOff. So thanks everyone, good evening, and thank you for being here, taking time to listen to this. So I'll just jump right in to explain some of the quick points or notes of creating a great application. So first of all, it's very, very important to start early, don't rush. The reason is if you start early, you have enough time, you can really take your time to build a strong application. It takes really just about 20 minutes to input the information into the application form. If you look at the chat, there's a link directly to the website where you can find directions to fill out the application and complete it and submit. But then again, what we do recognize is that a strong application depends on a solid preparation. Sometimes you want to demonstrate this by prior research that you have done, talking to people, finding out about the problem and the solution you're trying to provide, the market opportunity, and communicating a very deep understanding of your venture or the business or the organization in this case, whatever it is that's creating value, because it's not just business, but businesses or ventures, but also nonprofits can also apply, and the opportunity or the gap in the market that you're seeking to exploit, essentially. And so one of the things to think about in this sense is that taking the time out to do a great application takes time, and that's the critical thing. Another thing it does do is also require feedback. And so if possible, because of the way the application is set up, you have to finish it in one setting and hit submit. But if possible, what you can actually do is type out the questions in a Google document or a Word document for questions, especially questions 8 to 18 of the application, and then have your corresponding answers to those questions. And then have your friends or mentors or people who you trust in your local community to read this part of your application to see if they understand it. Especially people who have had no prior relationship with the idea or heard you talk about the idea. So giving them that application to read to see if they understand it, and if they are convinced that the business or venture or the organization it describes is persuasive enough. I will encourage you to ask for blunt feedback. Take it without getting offended. Part of being a business person, entrepreneur, or someone who's trying to get an idea off the ground is that you will get a lot of feedback, good and bad. But essentially, what you should be looking for is not good or bad feedback. What you should be looking for is blunt and true feedback. And you should encourage that so that you can improve and iterate on whatever it is that you're showing them. We've tried to make the application as simple and as conversational as possible. However, if necessary, please research any terms or words or questions you don't understand. Email us if you have tried this and are still stumped, but allow enough time before the deadline. Remember, like Falake said, it's Friday, February 10th at 11:59 to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time. Please ensure that you do this in time if you have any questions, so that when we respond to you, you have enough time to incorporate the feedback or clarifications around the issues that you had. At this point, I will do a rundown of a demo of a good application, courtesy of our friend Manny, and I'm also going to ask Manny okay, I thought your camera was off. Okay, great. So Manny's here. So I'm using Manny's application. Fabulous is actually a graduate of the Conestoga Entrepreneurship Collective. They went through the Venture Lab. And so I just want to use them as a use case to show you how to put together an application. So hold on, I will just share my screen very quickly. Here you go. So this is, first of all, this is the website. So on the LiftOff website, you can click directly into the link in the chat, or you can just visit the website, click on apply, and it gives you some background on how to apply, reminds you about the deadline, encourages you to apply. So if there's anything you take away from everything I'm saying, everything that Falake has said is, if you have an idea, if you're thinking about it, if you know someone who's thinking about it, just apply. You just never know. And so apart from the program description and all the other information, it's great to just go ahead and click on it and start your application. So taking a look at the application. So right here is Manny's information. So the first part of the application essentially is very straightforward. It deals with the biographical information. So it's essentially questions your name, your first name, your last name, your email address, your phone number, contact information, and how you prefer that we contact you, where you are. Questions 1 to 6, these are very straightforward, basic questions, but please be careful to enter accurate information so that we can capture your correct contact details. There might be a need, maybe in the process of review, application review, where it's necessary to get in touch with you very quickly. It's time sensitive, and having that contact information is very, very critical. So take the time to put that in. Also, question 7 is also very important, because this is where it's asking you to list out all the founding members of the business, if there's more than one person on the team. This is critical because at the end of the day, the ability to execute on the underlying idea of business or whatever it is you're trying to do will depend on the team and the individuals behind it. So it takes time to just put that information in. So the core of the application, and this is where it gets interesting, and I'll intersperse this with conversations with Manny to give you some background into what he was thinking when he was filling this out. But essentially, this is the core of the application. Questions 8 to 16. Is where a lot of the review will focus on, because this is where it relates to the idea or the venture being evaluated. It includes the applicant's ability to coherently articulate the market opportunity in terms of what you're trying to do, the problem space, the solution, all of that information, the competitive landscape in that case, who are the people in the space who might be competitors already doing what you're trying to do, even if you're doing it in a different way. And also your domain expertise as the business person, as the founder, as the entrepreneur who's taking this idea forward, your experience, your background, your knowledge, your insights, things that will help you improve on your execution ability. So at the end of the day, business is about doing, it's about carrying forward. Whether it's a business, nonprofit, it's about actions and doing set stuff. And so your ability to do that will be very, very critical. Now, the responses should focus on the core of the business idea. It should be succinct, precise, and very clear language. Any prior research or demonstration of the venture's validity helps. So to the point that Falake was making earlier, where talking to people about your idea, showing that you really thought through what exactly it is that you're seeking to do is very, very important. It's very important to be very clear about what the problem you're solving is, about the market opportunity you're trying to take advantage of to launch this venture or organization, and what makes you different. And so just taking a look at Manny's application here, where he talked about, so describe your new business idea in as much detail as possible. So what is fabulous? So Manny, I want you to kind of take us through what you were thinking about here and how you put together the words to come up with this. Yeah.
Right. So hey everyone, Manny. So quickly, what was going through, I guess, thought process was, to exactly your point, just being concise and explaining what, essentially a marketplace is in the description as well. So two things, because not everyone knows what that means. And we're assuming that we're applying to people that, they've never heard of us. So what is essentially our idea in like 3 lines? Including our mission. So that's kind of how we were thinking about like that description, because the tendency is usually to over explain or like use big words or like use complicated sentences. But I think a framework that I use that helps me is like, think of the things you use every day. Like, what are some of the products that you love? How would you describe those products in very simple sentences? So use that same framework to do for your own business as well.
Exactly. And this is very important. I think Manny raised an interesting point, which is using words that people can relate to, because at the end of the day, the business idea might be great and impactful, but if you can't sell it, if you can't describe it, if people can't connect to it, then it becomes even much harder, where if people have to spend a lot of time, it creates an additional level of friction, an additional barrier to people understanding it. So in a sense, Fabulous itself, like you said, is an online, it's great, it's straightforward, it's online, it's a marketplace. It's a marketplace that allows Black women to book Black beauty stylists near them with ease, and it helps stylists to find clients and earn money on their own schedule. So in that sentence right there, you can see very quickly describe what it is. And so for the person reviewing the application on the other side, it's very clear. Okay, it's online, that's the online play, it's this, it's that. So it begins to make sense to in the person's mind what that does. Moving on to, for example, question 9, where now, okay, what is the problem you are solving? Now, the reason why this is important is that for a lot of business people, a lot of entrepreneurs, especially if you have a solver's mindset, if you're a builder or tinkerer or someone who just likes to solve problems, a lot of times there is a bias to focus on the solution and not the problem. So I'm selling this, it's great, it's this, it's that, and I'm talking about the solution. No. Take a step back. What is the problem you're solving? Because for you to create value and deliver value to someone or a group of people who are willing to pay you for that value, or who want to use the service and who are encouraged to support you to reach people who want to use that service, it's at the end of the day going to boil down to what is the problem. And so defining that problem in a very, very succinct way is very critical. And so if you look at what Manny has done here, it says we're solving the problem of women having reliable hair. So who is it for? It's for women. Having reliable access to stylists. So on the other side, okay, so stylists need to find customers. The women need access to stylists. That's precisely the descriptor there, is to understand their hair texture and skin tone in their area. So it's a local, it has to be hyper local. So thinking about that problem, it helps you to resonate with, to connect to who the people are who have this problem, and how important that problem is. It creates an element of relatability as well by defining it as those who need access to stylists that understand their hair texture and skin tone. Because you could have just ended at, okay, we're solving the problem for women having access to reliable stylists, but then defining it further to put those additional constraints on it is very important, because it helps you to visualize who has this problem. It's not just the problem, but who has it. And then moving on to the solution here, where it talks about, so Fabulous is focused on providing high quality connections. It's asking you, okay, you've told us the problem, we understand it. What is the solution? What is the solution that you have to solve this problem? And so Fabulous is focused on providing high quality connections between customers and service providers. So you get it immediately. Okay, so this is the solution, is connecting these customers, the people who have the need, who are the ones who are looking for the service, to the service providers who provide it. And then it goes further to then explain precisely how it does it for a database of service providers. So we have and aggregate information about the service providers in our active markets where we operate. And then in addition, we're connecting those customers to those service providers. So very succinctly, I know it said there 200 words or less. Manny has used less than 20 words. The first one, maybe like 25, the second one or less, to describe precisely what it is that they're doing. 200 words is a guide, is a limit. It doesn't mean you should use all the way up to 200 words, but it's always good to think about very fundamentally in basic terms what it is you're trying to do, the problem you're solving, and the solution you're doing, you're creating to solve that problem. Now, in terms of how else, this is a very important question. How else is this problem being solved right now? There are a couple of things going on here. One is, if you're solving a problem that nobody knows exists, it's one of two things. It's not always binary, but it could be one of two things. One is the problem is there and people just don't know it exists, and you're a genius and you found out, you've seen a secret in the market based on your expertise, based on your research, or something that you're going after. Another thing is, well, if no one else is solving this problem, if this problem is not being solved, the question is it a problem? Right? Or is this a solution in search of a problem? And so when you think about how else the problem is being solved, we're not thinking about necessarily about competitors. I mean, that could be one of them. But the other thing is, what are the ways in which people are solving the problem right now, even if they're not getting it like from a company like you? So that's why it talks about existing alternatives, the current workarounds. What are people doing right now because they have this problem? If I have a problem and it's pressing enough, I will figure out a way to do it, even if a business is not, even if it means me trying to do certain things to solve it for myself. Tell us what those things are. If people are doing, they have a challenge. So for example, if this came up before and they're talking about in this way, they're talking about how is this problem being solved? Well, it's being solved informally, right? It's a fragmented process. It has additional, it's not ideal. But there are certain things in the market that are enabling people to try to take tools to solve it. So one, they're going on Kijiji to find stylists. They're going on Facebook Marketplace. They're looking at Yelp and even trying to get the reviews. So there are different elements of what Fabulous provides that are there for. And so essentially, he ends with this phrase about there's no all-in-one place hub for the services that Fabulous is seeking to provide. So in terms of thinking about existing alternatives, that's exactly why it's important to explain it, because it gives validation to the problem if there are existing alternatives. People think, oh, well, I say, oh, there are no competitors. No one doing this. No. The question isn't, is anyone else doing it? It's how is this problem being solved? The emphasis is on the problem, not necessarily on maybe the alternatives and all of that. But then question 12 is very important, where we're now talking about, okay, why is your solution different from existing alternatives? Because now you're going to begin to describe how you're different and why you're different and why people would choose you. So in a sense, it's a combination of your value, the value that you're creating. And in this case, the way Manny describes this is, like existing alternatives like Kijiji and Facebook. So right there, it's a problem. People are trying to solve it using these tools. What we do is to manage bookings, payments, appointments, cancellation. So essentially what he has done there, he's broken down the core elements of what is required from a solution and giving you what those problem points and areas are. So bookings, payments, appointments, and cancellations. They're working to be a full stack platform. So essentially full stack just means we take all these different components like booking, payments, appointments, and cancellations, we put it together for the beauty services. And then we provide almost like a seamless experience across that value chain to anyone who's using it, both from the customer standpoint and both from the, and also from the service provider standpoint. And so this is now interesting. And I also get Manny again to talk to some more about this. Who is your target customer? The reason why this is important is because a lot of times if you say, I'm doing a business, oh, it's for everybody, everybody's my customer. No, not everybody is your customer. Tell us who is the first customer you're going to go after and why, because you could have 10 people or 10 types of people who want to buy a product. The question you should be asking yourself is, who is the one that has the problem? Who is the person who has this need that needs this problem that needs to be solved? So I'll give you an example with Manny and Fabulous is, well, I could on my own, maybe if I have a daughter, want to pay for my daughter to use Fabulous. Okay, she wants to get a beauty stylist. I'm going to go on Fabulous and get it. But then again, I don't have the problem directly. She has the problem, right? And so in that permutation, I might be a target customer at some point, but maybe the core target customer of the person who needs it is the person you should be looking at. And I'll allow Manny to speak a little bit more into how Fabulous came up with that and how they describe it in the application.
Yeah, I like that point as well. Like there's obviously going to be so many indirect connections, like to your point, like a parent booking for their child. But in this case, we decided to be very specific. Doesn't mean that customers outside of these two profiles cannot book on our platform. It's just, again, to guide people that don't know anything about your business or your idea about exactly who you're trying to solve for. So in our case, I've now specified again that it's a two-sided marketplace, meaning there's two customer groups. So we actually serve two customers. We actually serve the end user and then the service provider, because we onboard both of those people to make the platform work. So essentially, I've just broken those two things down. So we talk about the supply side, which is the beauty stylist, and then we talk about the customer. So I just broke down those two profiles essentially in as much detail as possible.
Yeah, and this is very important because what this does right here is Manny has not only demonstrated that he understands what his business is by saying to me, listen, it's a marketplace. Two-sided just means there are two sides to it. But even if you go to the farmer's market or anywhere else you go in a real physical sense, there's also two sides, right? You have the people supplying and selling, and you have the people who are buying. And so if it's in a parking lot, if it's in a location, whatever that location that's hosting the market is, that's what Fabulous is trying to be. And that's essentially why he's segmented it to say there are two customer groups. There's supply side, the beauty service provider, demand side, the person who needs the service. And so what he does go further to do is to say specifically, the customer profile for the service provider is typically female, 21 to 45, lives and works. So these descriptions, one, are showing to the person reviewing the application that Manny knows what he's talking about. He's done some research, he's figured out all this stuff. I mean, it might not be complete, but he's showing me that he's thought through a lot of the elements of the business and why it's important. He talks about even where they are, why or what their motivations are. They want visibility and access to new customers. They're working class and middle class. They want to manage their appointments and bookings online, including payments. They want to explore a new promotion channel, so they want more people to find them. They want to get the word out there. They actively want to build a portfolio of their beauty services. So on the demand side now, the customer, again, is typically female, aged 18 to 55, lives in the Waterloo region and GTA corridor, wants a reliable hair or makeup stylist that caters to Black people specifically, working and middle class, has some disposable income, typically has a hard time getting good service. So all of these descriptions are showing me additional work that Manny has done to say, this is exactly who my target customer is. And target customers are very important because, again, it feeds into, have you done any research to support this business idea, which is the next phrase, and then to briefly describe it. And so in 200 words or less, I think Manny left about 180 words on the table there. But he said, yes, we've spoken to early prospects on both sides. And so, it's the service providers and the customers who want to do their hair, and we've done surveys. So that's showing us that there's some depth and there's something to what this business idea is. Now, again, at the end of the day, whether it's a nonprofit or a business, you need to make money. A nonprofit, you need to cover your operations, you need to cover your activities, you need to have some money to pay yourself. Whatever it is that you're doing, regardless of how you're making that money, this is question 15, is how do you make that money? And provide as much detail. In Fabulous case, it's very straightforward because the marketplace is say, listen, our main revenue streams, we take a rate of 10% on each booking, right? So essentially, they take a cut on each transaction that comes through the Fabulous platform. But for anybody else, even if it's a nonprofit, if it's about writing grant applications to funding organizations, if it's to seek corporate support through corporate social responsibility, if it's selling stuff, products, widgets, whatever it is you're selling, if it's a barbing salon, a restaurant where you're selling dishes of food, at the end of the day, just communicate to us what that revenue stream is, because that sustainability, that ability to generate cash and generate money is what keeps you in business. And that's the core of what this is all about. Now, question 16 is very important because this is where we're asking why you're interested in pursuing this business. It gives us some indication as to why you're doing this. It's very important to understand why you're doing something. Because there's a number of a limited number of spots available and different people will be applying, it's competitive. So again, what you're trying to do here is to stand out in the application reviewer's mind by communicating why you're interested in pursuing this business. Is this, well, I just want to do something on the side, which is valid, it's fine. It speaks to your motivation and why you're doing something. It helps us to begin to form, without meeting you in person, some kind of idea as to why you're doing it. And so this would be personal. It would differ from applicant to applicant, but put your best foot forward in describing why you're interested in pursuing this. And then 17 and 18 are also very important because they give us an indication maybe through your ability to differentiate yourself, the quality of your application and your preparation by defining your expectations about LiftOff. So beyond us asking you why, asking you information about your business, you also can then tell us, what you hope to gain. Like, this is an additional work that you've done to think about what you hope to gain from the LiftOff program. And question 18, why we should select you, is speaking to why I will be an asset to this program. And so at the end of the day, you're trying to stand out. You're trying to create an application in the mind of the reviewer that shows, I have carefully thought about this. I'm motivated enough to pursue this. I've done my research. I know something. It might be an idea. Maybe I've not even acted on it, but the preparation I'm bringing to the table shows you the kind of business person or entrepreneur or social enterprise person or impact-driven founder that I intend to be. And so the rest of the application from 19 to 23 is more additional straightforward basic questions around your biodata, information about how you found out about us, your demographics. This is also critical because, again, the program is for Black founders and business people. In addition to the gender and the age range, we also ask specifically if any of the members of the founding team identifies in a certain category. We also ask you if you're a student. This is also additional information. And then, of course, there's the confirmation of concept. Now, the question 25 is also very important because if you do scale through this stage, you put together, take all the information we synthesized for you today, you put together a great application, and you're called to the next stage. It's going to be an interview. And so that 30-minute virtual interview where we will then get to meet you in person, the person behind who put this wonderful, great application together, meet them, but also you get to meet us and ask us questions. It goes both ways. The interview isn't one-sided. It's asking you for more clarifications, and then you can also ask for more clarifications that you need from the program. So again, this is a great opportunity. I will say, anyone who's on here, if you know someone, you think of someone, please apply. That's the only thing I'll say. Just if you take anything away from here, apply for LiftOff. This is an incredible opportunity. If you're a Black business person in this community or around that is looking to take forward an idea or has an idea for business, nonprofit, whatever it is, just apply. You never know. So thank you very much. I think I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen here for Lake, and you can put. Great.
Thank you.
I will share one more thing in the chat. It's actually something that is very helpful. It's a pro tip. Essentially, some of the phrases we do recognize that some people might not be familiar with, things like problem, solution, all those type of business terms. But typically, this resource is called the Lean Canvas. It's a venture building tool to help you streamline your thoughts and descriptions. It gives you an idea in one page, one document, to put all the information about your organization or business or whatever it is in one document. And so there's also some information to the background. This will help you sharpen your response incredibly to questions 8 to 18. And I by sharing it here, I think please just take a look at this and see how it helps you. Again, if this is not enough, if there's still things you don't understand, start early, start tonight. The link is there. Go ahead. Thank you so much for listening.